Most hunters assume bigger Magnum means better bear medicine in Alaska. Ballistic records and field data from working guides tell a different story. A century-old military cartridge still outperforms modern Magnums. In one critical category, most hunters never check. Here we go. Rank 5. The .308 Winchester earns its place through pure shootability. Manufacturers built this cartridge for controlled, repeatable accuracy, not raw Magnum power. Winchester introduced the .308 in 1952, adapting it from military case design work. Engineers built the short-action platform to deliver reliable ballistic performance from a compact, efficient case. This design philosophy prioritized function over brute force. Here is what most people miss about this gun. The .308 generates under 16 foot-pounds of free recoil, the lowest figure on this entire list. That low recoil signature keeps shooters locked on target through the recoil impulse, allowing them to spot bullet impact and follow up faster if needed. Specifications confirm the pattern. A 180-grain bullet leaves the muzzle at 2,700 feet per second, generating 2,640 foot-pounds of energy. Compare that to the .300 Winchester Magnum, which produces nearly 900 more foot-pounds at the muzzle. The .308 trades raw power for control. The trade-off here is energy at extended range. Beyond 300 yards, the .308 loses effectiveness against the heaviest coastal brown bears compared to larger Magnum options. That limitation matters less for hunters targeting mountain goats or interior black bear, where shot distances stay moderate and bullet placement matters more than raw force. This cartridge was originally developed to standardize short-action rifle platforms across sporting and military applications. Next on this list, a cartridge built specifically to stop the largest predators on the North American continent. Rank 4. The .375 H&H Magnum stands as the global benchmark for dangerous game cartridges. Professional hunters across multiple continents have relied on this design for over a century of documented field use. Holland & Holland introduced this cartridge in 1912. British engineers designed the tapered case specifically to feed reliably in bolt-action rifles under extreme field conditions, including cold weather and rough handling. Here is the engineering decision that changed everything. The tapered case design solves a feeding problem that straight-walled Magnums often struggle with. That reliability factor matters more in Alaska than raw stopping power, since a jammed rifle facing a charging brown bear creates a survival emergency. Specifications tell the performance story. A 300-grain bullet leaves the muzzle at 2,530 feet per second, generating 4,265 foot-pounds of energy. Compare that to the .308 Winchester, which produces 1,600 fewer foot-pounds at the muzzle. Sectional density on the heavy load reaches 0.305. The trade-off here is physical burden. Rifles chambered for this cartridge often weigh 9 to 10 pounds fully equipped, and 41.5 foot-pounds of free recoil punishes unaccustomed shooters. That recoil matters less for experienced, dangerous game hunters who train specifically to manage it, but it becomes a serious liability for casual hunters unfamiliar with heavy recoiling rifles. Professional outfitters originally selected this cartridge for confirmed, dangerous game encounters requiring maximum penetration through heavy bone structure. Next on this list, a cartridge Alaska hunters consider distinctly their own. Rank 3. The .338 Winchester Magnum earns recognition as Alaska's native heavy hitter. Hunters and outfitters across the state consider this cartridge purpose-built for the region's largest game animals. Winchester introduced this design in 1958, engineering it specifically to address North American heavy game hunting demands. The cartridge uses a blown-out, necked-up case based on the 300 H&H Magnum, widening the bullet diameter to increase frontal surface area. Here is what most people miss about this gun. That wider 338-inch bullet diameter creates a 20% increase in frontal surface area compared to standard 30 caliber options. Larger frontal area means wider wound channels and faster incapacitation on massive-bodied game like coastal grizzlies. Specifications confirm the design intent. A 250-grain bullet leaves the muzzle at 2,600 feet per second, generating 3,750 foot-pounds of energy. Compare that to the 375 H&H Magnum, which produces over 500 more foot-pounds at the muzzle, despite similar bullet weight. Sectional density reaches 0.313 on the heavier load. The trade-off here is recoil management. This cartridge generates 35.2 foot-pounds of free recoil, a figure documented to increase flinching risk under field stress. That risk matters less for hunters who train regularly with heavy recoiling rifles, but it becomes a serious concern for anyone taking a single shot under pressure during a genuine emergency. Manufacturers originally engineered this cartridge to bridge the gap between standard 30 caliber rounds and true dangerous game magnums. Next on this list, a cartridge outfitters call the long-range Tundra King. Rank 2. The 300 Winchester Magnum stands as one of North America's most popular magnum hunting cartridges. Firearm analysts and professional outfitters frequently select this design for broad, multi-species Alaskan operations. Winchester introduced this cartridge in 1963, engineering the case to fit standard-length actions while still delivering true magnum velocity. This design choice avoided the extra-long action requirements that limit rifle options for hunters. Here is the engineering decision that changed everything. Compact case geometry allows the cartridge to reach 3,545 foot-pounds of muzzle energy from a standard-length action, a level of performance older Magnum designs needed longer, heavier rifles to achieve. Specifications confirm the design advantage. A 200-grain bullet leaves the muzzle at 2,825 feet per second, dropping only 17.2 inches at 400 yards. Compare that to the 338 Winchester Magnum, which drops significantly more at extended range despite similar bullet weight. The cartridge retains 1,742 foot-pounds of energy at 400 yards. The trade-off here is recoil versus the smaller options below it. This cartridge generates 27.8 foot-pounds of free recoil, a figure that demands consistent practice to manage without developing a flinch. That recoil matters less for well-practiced shooters and professional guides, but it creates real accuracy problems for hunters who only fire their rifle once a year before a trip. Manufacturers originally designed this cartridge to give hunters true magnum performance without sacrificing rifle handling or action length. Next on this list, the cartridge that started it all and still leads the pack a century later. You have waited long enough. Here it is. Rank 1. The 30-06 Springfield stands as the undisputed all-around champion for Alaskan big game hunting. This cartridge has spent over a century proving its versatility across every terrain and game species the state offers. The United States military adopted this cartridge in 1906, engineering it as a standardized battle rifle round. That military origin demanded reliability under the harshest conditions imaginable, a requirement that translated directly into decades of proven field performance for civilian hunters. Here is what most people miss about this gun. The 220-grain loading achieves a sectional density of 0.331, a figure that allows deep, straight-line penetration rivaling cartridges, generating far more muzzle energy. That penetration characteristic explains why wildlife agencies specifically endorse heavy loads of this cartridge for coastal brown bear hunting. Specifications confirm this balance. A 180-grain bullet leaves the muzzle at 2,700 feet per second, generating 2,913 foot-pounds of energy, and dropping just 7.4 inches at 300 yards. Compare that to the .300 Winchester Magnum, which generates 600 more foot-pounds of energy but demands nearly 40% more recoil to achieve it. Compare it again to the .338 Winchester Magnum, which produces greater frontal surface area but carries 75% more free recoil in a standard rifle. The trade-off here is raw power at extreme range. Dedicated, dangerous game magnums exceed this cartridge in maximum energy delivery on the largest coastal brown bears. That gap matters less for the vast majority of hunters, since this cartridge already meets documented penetration standards for that exact application when loaded correctly. The most effective Alaska hunting cartridge balances terminal performance, recoil control, and ammunition availability, not raw magnum power alone. Which cartridge on this list would you trust for your own Alaska hunt, and why? This content covers legal hunting cartridges and does not address any NFA-regulated items. Check current Alaska Department of Fish and Game regulations before any hunting trip. Subscribe for more documentary-style breakdowns built on verified ballistic data, historical records, and engineering analysis you won't find anywhere else.